All right, my friends, another video, and this video is to go through Spiral Review 23 with you. All right, and you know, the questions remain pretty much the same from week to week, same skills, different questions. So we're going to start with question one. It's a simple algorithm where you add 198 plus 333, and I can show you how to do that. I think that most of you are pretty good at the algorithm by now. The biggest thing is they wrote that in number sentence form, so you would have to write it in algorithm form underneath and make sure that you line up your numbers, ones on top of ones, tens on top of tens, and hundreds on top of hundreds. You always start with the ones. 8 plus 3 is 11 ones, which is 110 and 1 1. Then I add my tens. 9 plus 1 is 10, plus 3 more is 13, which is 100, and 3 tens. Then finally I add my hundreds. 3 plus 1 plus 2 is 5. So 198 plus 533 is 531. Next one is a subtraction problem. 500 minus 499. Again, I'm going to change it to the algorithm. Whoops. Okay, now I already can tell I'm going to have to subtract across zeros. And some of you might be smart enough to have looked at this and say, oh, Mrs. Reed, I already know the answer. But we're going to go through the algorithm. Okay, I need to subtract 9 ones from 0 ones. I can't do that. I should unbundle a 10, but there are no 10s to unbundle. So I'm going to go all the way over to the hundreds. I'm going to unbundle 100, which would leave me with 400s. But then I get 10 tens. Still don't have any ones though, so I'm going to unbundle one of those 10 tens. I'll be left with 9 tens. But the good news is I now have 10 ones. So now it's easy to subtract all the way across. 10 ones minus 9 ones is 1 1. 9 tens minus 9 tens is 0. 400s minus 400s is 0. So 500 minus 499 is 1, boys and girls. And if you looked at that and really thought about the numbers, where they are in the number line, you could have done that one without any algorithm at all. Okay, next question. This is one where we usually have to round or estimate. The question says the flower shop has 56 pots of tulips, 34 pots of daffodils, and 21 pots of hyacinths. Most important word in here is estimate how many pots of flowers the flower shop has. Remember, when it says estimate, we are going to be rounding. We don't want an exact answer, so I will not use those exact numbers. Matter of fact, I'll take 56 and I'm going to round that to 60. Rounding to the nearest 10. This 34 right here, I will round to 30. And I'm adding them because it wants to know how many pots they have all together. And then my last one is 21 hyacinths. I would round that to 20. And then the nice thing about this is you can do this mentally, boys and girls. So 60 plus 30 is 90, plus 20 more would be 110. So my number, my answer would be about, and you can write the word about, or you can use a squiggly equal sign, about 110. And what are they? We got to dress it up. About 110 pots of flowers. I'm just going to write pots in the interest of saving us time. Okay. All right, let's go down to the next question now. The next question is about telling time. And it does say model with a number line on the back. Well, I can't flip my page, so I'm going to draw my number line over here to the left. And you guys can check your work on the back. I don't like you to try to smush it in here because it's too much work to show in that small space. It says June arrives at the playground at 3:18. That's what time she arrives. She swings for 15 minutes, and then she plays on the climbing wall for 22 minutes. What time does she get done playing on the climbing wall? So I'm going to model with my number line over here. Okay. And we know the time that she arrives at the park. Remember, I don't have to put all those minutes from 0 to 60 on anymore. I'm just going to start with the time she arrives, and that is 3:18. All right. And the first thing she does is she swings for 15 minutes. So I'm going to break 15 down into 10 and 5. And first I'm going to add 10. And if I add 10 minutes to 3:18, my time will then be 3:28. I'll write that here. Remember to write your jumps. It helps keep your work organized. And then it helps Mrs. Reed too if you have a misunderstanding, to see where your misunderstanding is. So that was 10, but she swung for 15 minutes. So we're going to add another 5. That's a slightly smaller jump. 5 plus 28 would give me 333. Okay, so now I've accounted for the time that she was swinging, but then she goes to the climbing wall and she plays on that for 22 minutes. So again, I'm going to decompose my 22. I could jump all 22 at once, but I'm just going to jump 20 first. And I'm going to put my plus 20 here. And what time will it be? Well, 3:33 plus 20 minutes would give me 3:53. But she didn't just climb for 20 minutes, she climbed for 22. So that means I've got to jump 2 more. And then 3:53 plus 2 more minutes would give me 3:55. So to answer the question, what time does she get done playing on the climbing wall? She gets done at 3:55, and I'm going to use my text feature here so I can write it a little bit neater. Your time would be 3:55. Hope you got that right. All right, let's go to the next one. This is a fraction question. It says, Jacob eats 3/4 of a candy bar. Sam eats 3/6 of the same size candy bar. Who eats more? Well, they are the same size, so that's a really important concept with fractions. So I'm going to draw 2 candy bars, the same size, stack them, make this one a little bigger. Whoops, let me undo that. I really want them to be the same size, so I'm going to try that again. And that's better. Okay, and then I'm also going to put, again, so I can keep my work organized, I'm going to put a J here. This will be Jacob's, and I'll put an S here. This will be Sam's. All right, Jacob eats 3/4 of his. That means my unit is fourths. So I'm going to divide it in half, and then divide it in half again. And now I have 4 equal parts, so that's fourths. And then I want to highlight 3/4. So here's 1/4, 2/4, 3/4. Okay. Now Sam eats 3/6 of his. So I need to divide that number line into 6 equal parts. Well, the easiest way to make 6 is to start with thirds. Whoop. Forgot to change my color. And then I'm going to divide my thirds in half. So that will give me 6 equal parts. And then I'm going to shade. Use a different color here since I kind of messed up. I need to shade 3/6. So there's 1 6 2 6 3 6. All right, now I can compare. Who eats more? Well, remember I put my J there for Jacob. So now it's pretty easy for me to look at those 2 bars and see the first one is more shaded. So I'll say Jacob eats more. All right. Okay, the next question. The Smith family spends $60 each week on groceries. Remember to underline your knowns. $60 each week on groceries. How much money do they spend on groceries in 4 weeks? So I've got 4 weeks, $60 each week. So one thing you could do is you could draw 4 circles. Each one of these circles would represent, that's right, a week. So we've got 4 of them. I'm going to change to a darker color here. Okay, and they spend $60 each week, so I'm going to put a 60 in each one. And then I could add 60 plus 60 plus 60 plus 60. That's repeated addition, and we know that we've spent most of 3rd grade learning how to multiply and divide. So instead of doing repeated addition, I'm going to write my number sentence, and I have 4 groups of $60, which will equal, well, I see my hidden fact in there, 4 times 6. 4 times 6 is 24. Use my dollar sign. And then I add my 0 because it's not just 4 times 6, it's 4 times 6 tens. So how much money do they spend on groceries in 4 weeks? I can write a little PS here. They spend $240. Okay, that was having you practice a word problem and multiplying by multiples of 10. All right, last question. And this is a word problem. Most likely it's a 2-step problem. Okay, the zoo has 112 types of reptiles and amphibians in their exhibits. There are 72 types of reptiles, and the rest are amphibians. How many more reptiles are there than amphibians? All right, well, I know that there's 112 reptiles and amphibians, and I know 72 are types of reptiles. So what am I wondering right now? I'm wondering how many amphibians there are. This certainly sounds like a part whole problem. So I'm going to put my whole up there, and I'll have 2 parts. And without saying any numbers, do you know what the 2 parts represent? That's right. 1 part will represent reptiles, and 1 part will represent amphibians. Okay, now let's go back and put my knowns in. 112 is the total of both reptiles and amphibians. 72, my other known that I have underlined up here, is the reptiles. And I don't know what the amphibians are, so I'm going to put a question mark there. So when you have a number bond and you have the whole and you have 1 part, you find the other part with a subtraction sentence. All right, so I'm going to write my subtraction sentence here. I would take 112 and subtract my 1 part, which is 72. And then I would get my answer. If you don't know what that is, you can do the algorithm. Certainly, I would encourage you to do that. I'm going to do mine right underneath here. I could skip count to find my answer. And some of you may be able to do that mentally. 2 minus 2 is 0. And then 11 minus 7 is 4. So I have 40 amphibians. All right, I'm going to go back and put my 40 in here. All right, now the next part says, I'm going to split my work area. How many more types of reptiles are there than amphibians? Well, this is comparing. We don't do it too often, but we're comparing the number of reptiles to the number of amphibians. So if you remember how we do that, we draw a tape diagram that is stacked. The big bar on top and a smaller bar on the bottom. Okay, so I have to figure out what is the bigger number, the reptiles or the amphibians. I'm going to come back over here and look, and there are 72 amphibians and 40, or 72 reptiles and 40 amphibians. So I'm going to make reptiles be the bigger bar and amphibians be the smaller bar. And then I'll put my numbers that represent them in each bar. So there's 72 reptiles and 40 amphibians. And what is my difference, or how many more reptiles do I have than amphibians? That is represented by this length of the top bar over the bottom bar, or the length of the big bar over the smaller bar. What number sentence can I write for that? Well, I'm finding the difference between the two. So it'd be 72 minus 40 equals. And remember, I'm not going to add those, because if I added them, I'd get a number bigger, or I could be back at 112, which is the total. And I'm not looking for the total. I'm looking at the difference between reptiles and amphibians. 72 minus 40, I can do that mentally, is 30. And then I can come down here and write my target sentence. How many more types of reptiles are there than amphibians? And I'd write there are 30 more types. There's your answer, boys and girls. Okay. Hope you checked your work and we cleared up misunderstandings. Thanks for joining me. Bye-bye.